let's take a look at just some of the highlights of this weekend, because an awful lot has been going on. So there, just some of the highlights of the celebrations of the XX programs and F1 Clienti. And Daniel, I'm sure you'll agree, you were very much part of the gala dinner here at the circuit last night, which I was privileged to be just a small part of that. It gives you a special feeling inside to be part of this family, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's my first finale mondiale. It's my first time at Mugello. We had a really great evening yesterday. And I have to say, every time that I listen, when they call me like as a Le Mans winner, is something that makes me really like, it's always emotional. It's super nice.
Of course. And today, of course, thousands of people have made their way into the circuit to enjoy not only the challenge races, and we have the Coppa Shell World Final to come, but also, of course, the glittering Ferrari show that will be part of the celebrations a little bit later today. In fact, it will be this afternoon. So the circuit was shrouded in mist early on, which meant we were delayed to the start of our first race, but we're beginning to get ourselves back on track once again. There's the Hublot safety car, which will be leading these cars away on their formation lap. The race duration has been reduced to 25 minutes across all the World Final races today, and that all brought about by the late start, brought about because of the mist that descended. Von Skeltermar in car number 177, the Shark's Teeth on the car of Von Skeltermar Racing, of course. For Kessel Racing, you just saw in shot his driver coach, Nicky Kadai, himself very successful driver, of course. And there is Christian Kinch in car number 128. His driver coach is, well, you could just see him in shot there, Badalus. So Christian Kinch, who he and Martin Nelson had it coming together in their final championship race yesterday, and unfortunately it was retirements for both of them, but Christian Kinch hoping to uphold the honours and potentially take the world final win. The Scuderia Ferrari Club, the official Ferrari passion then, is represented here in the grandstands, and beautiful weather conditions, although not quite as warm as yesterday, but nonetheless the sun is shining, the mist has burned off, and we are about to go racing. 25 minutes of racing to come from the Ferrari Challenge Coppa Shell World Final race. And in this World Final race, we pitch all the drivers, the best of the drivers from all the regions, Asia Pacific and North America, and also Europe as well. And here's the grid in full. Tanny Hanna from pole position, then it's Ernst Kirchmeier and James Wyland. He'll be one to keep an eye on. Thomas Gosner, P4. Mark Issa, the best of the Americans. He goes from P5 on the grid. He'll be someone worth watching too. Then it's Murat Kuhadaroglu who goes from P6 on the grid, ahead of Cloud Ceneretti and Christian Kinch and Ken Abe. And Fujiwara goes from P10 with Skeltermar P11 and Wong, who will be going from the 6th row of the grid to P12 on the grid. Then we get the next. It's Corinna Gosner and Yambin Singh, and then it's Park and Yamaguchi and Ryan Davis and Guy Four, and just one more driver to appear on the starting grid, that being Tommy Lindroth, who will be going from P19 on the grid. So there you can see the cars lined up on the grid, and with all the pressure off, Daniel, as a racing driver, do you take a different mental attitude into a race which is just for honour rather than for points? You know, are you prepared to be a bit more risky, do you think?
Yeah, as you said, it's one race. It's all in. Or you win or you don't win. So you take more risks. You go for the win. It doesn't matter if you finish like P6 or 7. Everyone that is starting for sure want to be on the podium. So people who take more risk will try to go to the first position. So this will make a really interesting race.
Until you came here this weekend, as you'd mentioned to us, Daniel, you'd not been to Mugello before, so it's your first impressions, A, of the track, and B, of how the track performs in race conditions. It's quite a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not an easy track. It's really demanding. It's we have like really fast corners. It's a really nice track to drive. I did a few laps yesterday.
Okay.
And yeah, it's super demanding for the car, for the drivers, but it's a short race. Yeah, it's 25 minutes, so they will be pushing as hard as they can from lap 1 to the last lap.
And as we have seen, because you've joined us on the air in previous races this weekend, that with everything concentrated, so a shorter race duration, quite a big grid of cars, there is always a likelihood of some drama and maybe a safety car to throw a little curved ball into the race action as well.
Yeah, like we see a lot of races ending with safety car. We hope this is a green race until the end, and especially because now the drivers, they already did 2 races, so they know the track better, they are used to the track, so I think let's hope to have a green race.
Our fingers are crossed. And we're expecting to have a very good race, and who will be crowned the world champion with regards to Coppa Shell. We're on board with the safety car, then Tanny Hanna will be going from P1 on the grid. Tanny Hanna, of course, he's buoyed with the confidence one assumes of being the champion in Europe. And does that give you a 10th or a 100th when you're feeling good with yourself because you know you've been a winner? Does that when you go into your next race, Daniel, do you think, do you know what, I know I can win this because I've done it?
Yeah, it's not just about the car, about the team. It's about confidence as well, I think, as in any other sport. So if you are feeling well, if you are confident, for sure you have something else.
Yes, it's just a little addition. The marshals there that you can see holding the boards are telling the drivers to grid up side by side. So it will be Tanny Hanna and Ernst Kirchmayr. Then it will be James Weiland and Thomas Gosner, as all the cars do get into their side-by-side formation. They're heading now towards the final turn, which is the Buccini turn, which I was going to say, Daniel, when I drove the track, I didn't drive it, I was a passenger. But it's not until you actually get onto the track that you realise how much elevation change there is at certain places, and certainly turn 14, which is almost banked as well. That provides lots of different lines.
Exactly, not just this corner, but I think you can do, there is more than one good line. You can do different lines to be fast, and we can see this during the race, especially in the last corner.
Well, we're standing by as the music builds the anticipation. The lights are red at the moment. When they go green, we will be racing. Tanny Hanna from pole position. Ernst Kirchmayr alongside him. James Weiland champing at the bit, as you can see. As we do go green, Knape trying to make a move early on in this race as well. Ernst Kirchmayr just ahead of Tanny Hanna, but they go into turn number 1. Tanny Hanna will have the inside line. Here comes Thomas Gosner. There's contact between Tanny Hanna and Ernst Kirchmayr, but Tanny Hanna stays ahead. Thomas Gosner and Kirchmayr collide. And that sends 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars out into the gravel. And Daniel, you know what we were saying about safety car, and we hope not. Who knows what will happen now, but the rest of the cars continue to make their way. James Weiland, of course, now in P2 because of the others and what has happened in terms of the gravel and Ernst Kirchmayr, but James Weiland is P2. It's Makoto Fujiwara who is P3, and with those cars where they are, you know what that means, Daniel. Safety car is going to have to come out.
Yeah, it's the safest thing to do. We have the marshals working. I couldn't see exactly what happened in the start, so let's see if we have a better election.
Well, as we speak, the safety car hasn't been called for, but I'm convinced that it will be. P1 is Tanny Hanna. P2 is James Weiland for Rosso Corsa. Here's a replay of the start then. Ernst Kirchmayr gets a slightly better start than Tanny Hanna. And I think Tanny Hanna just moves across Ernst going into turn number 1. Let's have a look. Yes. So that allowed Thomas Gosner to get to the inside, but then Thomas connects with Ernst Kirchmayr, and then everyone behind Daniel, they're just trying to take avoiding action, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I think like you need to be careful on this tire. You know, it's not you and another car. There is all the drivers there. You cannot change a lot of the lines. And as a driver, if you see the gap, you try to gain that position.
Of course.
I think this is what happened, and that's it.
Well, for a number of cars, they will be out of the race before even one racing lap is completed, because we are behind the safety car now. There was never any doubt that the safety car would be called for, and Murat Kuhadaroglu is one of those that is out of the race in car number 133. We've also lost Ernst Kirchmayr and Thomas Gosner, I think, as well. So that will be the end now. There is Ernst Kirchmayr and Murat Kuhadaroglu having a conversation between themselves. It was Ernst Kirchmayr to the left and Murat Kuhadaroglu to the right-hand side. I don't know whether Mark Issa got caught up in that as well, because on our timing screen he's dropped right to the bottom. And Mark Issa was one that I thought might do a very, very good job here, having been having been crowned champion in North America. So there is Ernst Kirchmayr and Murat Kuhadaroglu. Both clearly very frustrated that their race is over, and safety car having been called for. And of course, you can understand their frustrations, can't you, Daniel? There's nothing worse than you're out of the race.
No, the worst thing is when you are out in the first corner, because there is so much preparation. You want to do the race, you want to see what you can do, and then suddenly you are out in the first corner. Is really frustrating.
What it does do is the incident at T1 is under investigation. What, of course, it does do is it puts Tani Hanna under some pressure, because James Weiland, who is right behind him, and also Makoto Fujiwara, who's the best of the Asia-Pacific drivers. Cloud Senaretti in the all-pink car is P4, so it's split right across the regions in terms of who's where and at the sharp end of the race. But with the race duration already reduced to 25 minutes, this safety car period means that the actual racing laps will be reduced still further. So as they all headed into turn number 1, we can see in super slow-mo replay, Ernst Kirchmayr definitely seemed to be a bit quicker than Tani Hanna at the start. And Tommy Lindroth very sensibly, arguably, just being very cautious right at the back to let everything unfold in front of him. So from that angle, we could see them arrive here at turn number 1, and Thomas Gosner on the inside of Ernst Kirchmayr. And Mark Issa was involved in that as well, which is why Mark Issa is out too, which is a great disappointment. So, well, there we can see it. We've lost a number of cars. 5 by my reckoning. Vincent Wong was probably involved in that also. So the order is Tani Hanna, James Weiland, and Makoto Fujiwara behind the safety car. No indications yet when the safety car is coming in. There's quite a few cars that have got to be recovered, and, well, presumably, Daniel, I was going to say they need to keep some temperature into the tyres, but they actually didn't generate much temperature into the tyres because they didn't do a whole lap.
Yeah, exactly. They don't need to keep, they need to generate.
Start.
They were in their safety car after the first, and it's not really hot today, so they need to keep putting the temperature on the tires, but they need to be careful to don't go on the marbles, you know. As we have a lot of track activity these days, there is a lot of dirty outside the perfect line.
Yes.
So they need to warm up the tires, but be careful to don't bring some marbles in it.
And if you get the dirt and the marbles onto your tyres, you then have to go through the process, presumably, of trying to clean those tyres.
What makes more difficult when you don't have the temperature on it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really important. I think the driver that can put more temperature now will have a better performance in the first 3-4 corners, and this can make a difference on the restart.
Generally speaking, can you bring the tyres up to temperature in 1 lap, or do you need more than 1 lap, really, to get the tyres into their perfect operating window?
Depends a lot on the track and on the temperature of track and air.
Yes.
Today is not hot. It's quite cold outside, so the track is not really hot as well. But under safety car, you can put some temperature. Of course, you cannot arrive on the perfect temperature under safety car because you're going super slow. But it's not just about the tires. You need to keep the brakes hot as well.
And of course, by keeping the brakes hot, the heat from the brakes dissipate out through the rims onto the tires, don't they?
Exactly. It's like, let's say, it's a package.
Yes, yes.
You can warm up the tires doing a lot of braking, you know. So you warm up the tires, the brake, and this is what you need for a good restart.
Expert advice from official Ferrari GT driver Daniel Serra alongside us, and delighted he's here. So Tani Hanna then is, excuse me, the first car behind the safety car. As we take a look at the challenge show now. So that was just a little part of our challenge show, and some of the spectators here enjoying the enjoying the safety car parade that we have at the moment. As I say, there's still no word as to when the safety car is coming in, and credit to the marshals and the recovery teams here at Mugello. They've got an awful lot of cars to recover before we can go back to racing. As all the cars have to be moved, and as if I am a magician, a safety car is coming in this lap, so that's good. And we will go to racing. We will have about 15 minutes of race. So we're at about half distance of the race or thereabouts. There is Tani Hanna then, who is P1 at the moment. Then it is James Wyland. James will be very, very keen to try and find a way past Tani Hanna, but it's difficult to overtake here at Mugello. And Tani, of course, is buoyed with confidence, having taken the championship as well. So Tani Hanna P1, James Wyland P2. Then for Asia Pacific, it is Makoto Fujiwara. And then for North America, in the pink liveried car, it is Cloud Senoretti ahead of Ken Abe and Yanbin Singh and Kazuyuki Yamaguchi. And then it's Brian Davis and Jay Park and Guy Ford. So the cars are heading into the final turn now. The safety car will peel off, and it will be back to racing conditions. And in this situation, it's the responsibility of Tani Hanna to control the restart. What James Wyland will try and do is anticipate when he's going to go for it. Now, all the cars are supposed to try and keep up, but you can see P1 and P2 have broken away a bit from Makoto Fujiwara. As we go green once again, is James Wyland close enough to have a go going into turn number 1 at Tani Hanna? He goes to the outside as the cars cross the crest, and now dives to the inside. James Wyland on the inside. Tani Hanna closes the door, though. Cloud Senoretti trying to have a go at Makoto Fujiwara for P3 as well. So Tani Hanna for the moment P1. James Wyland is P2. And James Wyland really putting the pressure on Tani Hanna now. James Wyland, who has competed not only in Ferrari Challenge in Europe, but also in North America and indeed for Asia Pacific too. As a warning flag is going to be given to Tani Hanna, which I suspect is for that incident right at the start, although it may be that he broke speed too quickly and the safety car restart. Don't know. All we do know is that 157 Tani Hanna is going to get a warning flag, as diving up on the inside there was Brian Davis, another one of the brilliant North American drivers from the Ferrari Challenge, as the cars continue to make their way around this undulating Mugello circuit. There is no doubt about it that James Wyland and Tani Hanna have broken away from the rest of the pack, but Tani Hanna seems to be getting into his rhythm now, and this battle continues. And there you can see the number 525 car taking a look at the inside, the J Park car, taking a look at the car of Kazuyuki Yamaguchi and Guy Ford as well in that battle for P9 currently. So under 15 minutes of racing remaining. You can see the cars get loose. The back end of the cars just squirming then. And there's Tani Hanna P1, James Wyland P2, and Makoto Fujiwara is P3. There's a fight going on for P4 here because Cloud Senoretti is coming under pressure from Ken Abe. So Ken Abe, who's P5 at the moment, and then it is Cloud Senoretti, who is P4. As once again they make their way in towards turn number 1, which, having spoken to James Collado, Daniel, T1 is one of the places here at Mugello where you can try and execute an overtake.
Yes, exactly. Because you have a hard braking then
Yes.
the straight for corner one, so it's a place as we can see now. You can try to go inside or outside. Of course, outside is a bit more difficult, but if you can stay outside, then you have the preference for corner two, as we can see now.
Because it gives you the inside for the next turn. However, not quite enough momentum from the car of Jay Park, but Jay is sticking with it here. A real fight going on, and a good fight as well. And here comes Christian Kinch in the black and green car. He's in a big battle here with Von Skeltermar, and Von Skeltermar through the chicane. The Kessel racing driver puts himself ahead of Christian Kinch. So Von Skeltermar in the 177 car, currently running in that P11 place. Sorry, P10 place now. He's got past Christian Kinch. And then this battle continuing between Kazuyuki Yamaguchi and Jay Park. So a bigger fight going on over the P8 place than anywhere else on track at the moment. And we only have just under 13 minutes of racing still to come. So Kazuyuki Yamaguchi, who's got a whole train of cars right behind him. As you can see, it could be, for this P8 position, it could be a 4 or 5-way fight any moment, because involved is Jay Park and Guy Four and Von Skeltermar as well. So there they are. And you can see Von Skeltermar is the one that's looking the most lively here, in my opinion. He's got past Christian Kinch and continuing to race on. The Kessel driver, who's coached by Nicky Kadai, takes a look at the inside, but he's not quite close enough. And Christian Kinch is trying to come back at the 177 car as well, as they go through the Buccini turn. And we'll head to the start-finish straight once again. Cars all spreading out quite a bit now. Danny Hanna continuing to lead from James Wyland, and he's built a 1.1 second gap from P1 to P2. And I guess, Daniel, there's no such thing as a safe gap. Do you know what I mean? You always try and increase that margin between P1 and P2 as much as you can.
Yeah, exactly. As much gap as you have is the better. Of course, after you put like two seconds, let's say 3 seconds, it's enough. You have a margin, let's say.
Yes.
It's not that you can stop pushing, otherwise the gap is gone, but you have a margin, you know, if something happens or if you have traffic, anything like different from the normal, you have a margin.
Jan Binzing and Brian Davis here. Brian Davis to the inside of Jan Binzing. There's contact between the two of them. That spins Davis around. If he can keep it in the tarmac. No, through the gravel he goes. Just manages to get it back out, but of course what that also does, it drags a load of gravel out onto the track surface also.
Yeah, exactly. Now on corner 6, drivers need to be careful on the next lap, because it will be really dirty with gravel. It was a shame, it was a nice move. I think he didn't see that the other guy was inside.
Well, that has dropped him back down the order, unfortunately, but this battle for P1, well, on the last lap, Danny Hanna, he lost a little bit of time to James Wyland, and James came back at him, and with 10.5 minutes of the race remaining, if James is going to have a go at Danny Hanna, he needs to get on terms with him. The incident involving cars 568 and 328 is under investigation. The question I'd like to ask you, Daniel, is in these cars, in these Ferrari Challenge cars, as we get a replay of that incident, he did well to keep it right out of the gravel and keep the momentum so that it didn't bog down. The point I was going to make is, with these cars, you can follow cars quite closely, can't you? You know, it's not like you're affected by turbulent air.
No, exactly. You can race really, really close. You don't lose a lot of downforce in this car, so the race is always close. There is not a problem where you don't lose any time if you are as close as you can in the car in front.
Ken Abe is really pushing Cloud Ceneretti here. Cloud Ceneretti is currently running in that P4 position. Ken Abe is chasing him, and Von Skeltermar is really beginning to put the pressure on Jay Park. So takes a look to the inside of Jay Park now and has to yield. So it's Jay Park and Yamaguchi and Von Skeltermar are all involved in this battle that's going on and continuing to rage, and you can really rather sense that Fons is getting somewhat frustrated behind. Davis, of course, trying to come back following his incident, and Corinna Gosner and Thomas Gosner now having to look on from the pit wall as Fons dives to the inside of the 550 car of Kazuyuki Yamaguchi. and a good racing room was left. We're going to get a drive-through penalty awarded to the car of Yanbin Zing for causing an incident. Yanbin Zing gets a drive-through penalty, so the P6 driver gets a drive-through penalty. So here comes von Skeltermar then. Meantime, at the front, the P1, P2 gap is down to just 7/10 now. So just 8.5 minutes remaining in this race, and Davis now on the back of Christian Kinch as the cars round the final turn and head towards turn number 1. And Ken Abe continuing to chase Cloud Ceneretti, and James Weiler now getting ever closer to Tanny Hanna. He's reduced the gap. He's taken another 4/10 out of Tanny Hanna's race lead. But it's all very well, Daniel. You can take as much time out as you want. You've got to find a way by.
Yes, exactly. One thing is to arrive, and the other thing is to overtake. I don't know, something probably happened in the last lap, because Tanny Hanna did a lap 7/10 worse than the previous one.
Right.
So now it's a different race for him, because he has James really, really close.
And that's the thing. You've only got to make one very, very small mistake, and if it's going to cost you 7/10.
Yeah, exactly. There is no safety gap. You know?
No, no.
And as soon as you have like a driver behind you really close, then the race is different, especially if he's trying to attack.
So James Weiland then and Tanny Hanna, who are continuing this fight for P1, of course the honours of the World Championship. So Tanny Hanna leading from James Weiland, then it's Fujiwara P3, Cloud Ceneretti P4, then it's Ken Abe's P5. Yanbin Zing, of course, in car number 568, who's running P6 at the moment. He's going to get a drive-through penalty. Well, he's been given a drive-through penalty, so therefore that's going to knock him down the order. And Tanny Hanna appears here to have responded to the threat from James Weiland and has opened up a little bit more of a margin. You can see there James is really taking liberties, isn't he, and trying to shortcut the track as much as he can, Daniel.
Yes, exactly. You could see like a different approach to that corner. That is a flat corner, but if you can cut, like if you can do as straight as you can, it is better.
Yeah, of course, it's less meterage in terms of the tarmac. So now Tanny Hanna and James Weiland cross the timing line. We get a live gap. It's down to just under 5/10 between the two of them. James still not quite close enough to be able to put a move going into turn number 1. He takes a very different line in turn number 1 to Tanny Hanna. Cloud Ceneretti and Ken Abe continue their fight going on here. And Ken Abe trying to go all the way around the outside of Cloud Ceneretti here. But Cloud Ceneretti sticks with it and closes the door on Ken Abe, which of course it is his right to be able to do that. You can defend your track position.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was not side by side, you know, he didn't have the advantage yet, so Ceneretti did the right move.
So Cloud Ceneretti, who's been a real star in the Ferrari Challenge North America, and Ken Abe, who equally has been a star in the European Series in that blistering electric blue-coloured Ferrari 488 Challenge car. And Cloud Ceneretti with a slightly different but no less appealing livery across his Challenge car. This is our race leader, Tanny Hanna, then. Sealed the Coppa Shell Championship for Europe. Therefore, buoyed with that confidence, he leads this race from James Weiland, who, as I say, has the distinction of being one of the most travelled Ferrari Challenge racers, racing in both North America, Europe, and indeed in Asia Pacific. In fact, he started this season, if memory serves me correctly, in support of Formula One, when the Asia Pacific Ferrari Challenge cars were at Melbourne, right at the beginning of the year. Well, this is one of the closer fights going on as Brian Davis tries to come back. He's got Kazuki Yamaguchi ahead of him. And for the moment, Yamaguchi is able to show a clean pair of heels to Brian Davis, but Brian Davis dives to the inside now of Yamaguchi, and, well, that's job done. But can he maintain that speed going into the final turn? Yes, he does, and he moves up a place. So that was a good overtake, and he really pressured the driver in front, Daniel, and when the driver wanted to turn in, the car was full of another 488 alongside.
Yes, exactly. He did a perfect move. You know, when you decide to overtake, you have to go for it. You have to dive properly.
And there's a problem for that car, which has pulled off, and I think that's the Yamaguchi car. Yes, it is. Kazuyuki Yamaguchi then for corner Sasako. The tyre has let go, I can see.
Yeah, it's a shame.
That is a shame, but he's managed to get the car to safety, which means we have just 3.5 minutes left. And Tanihana continuing to lead James Wyland. These two, the pace they've got, they've really broken away by something like 4 seconds from the rest of the pack. And well, I have vivid memories of Tanihana in the Finale Mondiale at Monza last year, where it all went horribly wrong towards the end of the race. But for the moment, he looks like everything is completely under control. Makoto Fujiwaru's kind of out on his own, and Cloud Ceneretti continuing to defend from Ken Abe here in this battle for P4. And we're running out of time as Ken Abe takes a look to the outside of Cloud Ceneretti. Will he try and come underneath now? He's not close enough or quick enough to be able to do that. They try and straight line the chicane, both of them. There's the battle for P4 then. Ken Abe tries to sell him a dummy and takes a look at the inside, but Cloud Ceneretti was wise to that move and made sure that he put that car exactly where Ken Abe did not want it to be. On board with Ken Abe looking back then as he continues to thrust this Ferrari 488 car. And now James Wyland gets ever closer for the lead of the race to Tanihana. So James knows he's running out of time now. Car number 128 is going to be given a 25-second time penalty. That's Christian Kinch. But that's academic, because what we're doing is racing this fight for the world final honours between Tanihana and James Wyland. So now James, who's got his last burst of effort, there's probably the remainder of this lap plus one more, Daniel, I would suggest.
Yeah, probably you have more 2 laps, and James is always doing a really good third sector, what is really good in a fight, because then he can, like, the last corner is in the last sector, of course. So as soon as he is the fastest there, he can have an opportunity in the first corner.
Well, as they climb uphill, Tanihana has responded. So here's von Skeltermar in car number 177, chasing Jay Park, as he has done. Jay Park, who's running in P6 at the moment. Von Skeltermar is P7. So as Tanihana and James Wyland will cross the timing line, I suspect it will be to start the final lap here in the world final race. And a mistake from Jay Park. Does that play into the hands of von Skeltermar? He wasn't quite close enough to be able to take advantage of that.
If I'm not wrong, he did the same mistake. He was on the reference.
Okay. I'm sure you're not wrong, Daniel. But the momentum that Fons has now is arguably better than Jay. But, again, as we've said earlier on, he's got to find a way by, and at the moment has not been able to do so. As they crossed the timing line, there were 7/10 between Tanihana and James Wyland. So, I beg your pardon, you're right, Daniel. It's 1/10 because James Wyland's right on the outside of Tanihana now. He'll try and get a switch back here and go underneath him, and he's done it. Tanihana makes a mistake, and that has put James Wyland into the lead of this race. That was pressure, Daniel, wasn't it?
Yes, exactly. As I told you, the last sector of James is always really, really fast, so he can put some pressure in corner 1, and this is what he did, you know? He put pressure, and that is not wrong.
Tanny taking a look at the inside, and Tanny has got... That looked like there was some fluid coming out of the car as well of Tanihana. I'm not sure. Can you see there, just on the left-hand front, whether the tyre is rubbing, whether it's not fluid, it's actually just smoke. But James Wyland is leading this world final race on the final lap of the race. Kind of doesn't matter what lap you're on. If you're going to lead, you're going to lead, aren't you?
Yeah, the most important is to lead the last one.
You're absolutely right. I was hoping you were going to take that lead from me. And you did. And James Wyland then, who's quietly been going about his business, but has maintained the pressure on Tanihana, as that's a huge mistake for Jay Park, which does let von Skeltermar through. I have to say, that was a big save from Jay Park as the back end of the car lit up. And Cloud Ceneretti makes his 488 wider than Ken Abe's. And that prevents Ken Abe from coming through for the moment. So James Wyland then, in car number 118, has got one turn to do, and he will head towards the checkered flag. His son Max will be elated as his father heads towards the checkered flag to become the Coppa Shell World Champion. James Wyland wins. Tanny Hanna makes it to P2. And that, the 107 car of Ken Abe, who, of course, had chased Cloud Ceneretti. Well, in the end, it makes no difference. He still finishes in the same position, but he wasn't as close to Cloud Ceneretti as he had been. So the 1, 2, 3, James Wyland, Tanny Hanna, and Makoto Fujiwara. Ahead of Ken Abe and von Skeltermeyer and Jay Park and Brian Davis and Christian Kinch, although he's got to get a time penalty. Tommy Lindroth into the top 10. In fact, Tommy Lindroth will probably become P9, I would suggest. Whew. And this was where Ken Abe, with his quest to get to the inside of Cloud Ceneretti.
And he was lucky that he had a good gap to the car behind,
Indeed.
so he still had the same position.
So yes, the 25-second time penalty has been given to Christian Kinch, which elevates Tommy Lindroth into that P9 place. Daniel, Sarah, as always, a great pleasure. Thank you so much for sparing time to be on air with us. We really appreciate that. And well, good luck in the Ferrari show to come a little bit later today.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
So Daniel, Sarah then joining us on the air. James Wyland takes the win and becomes the world champion. From Tanny Hanna and Makoto Fujiwara and Cloud Ceneretti and Ken Abe and von Skeltermeyer, and it was Jay Park, Brian Davis, Tommy Lindroth and Yan Benzing finishes in P10. Another race that finishes with a checkered flag. What on earth are you talking about, Dave? Well, we've had so many Ferrari Challenge races that have finished behind the safety car, so nice to see it go to the checkered flag. So some of the spectators look on. They've been treated to a good Coppa Shell World Final, that's for sure, with plenty going on during the course of the race. For Rosso Corsa, then, James Wyland has taken the win, pressured Tanny Hanna into making a mistake, and very, very good for Makoto Fujiwara, who finishes P3. The best North American driver, of course, Cloud Ceneretti, who finishes P4. James, I was going to say jumps out of the car. That would be not entirely accurate. He's such a nice man. As I say, he races across all the regions of Ferrari Challenge, and Tanny Hanna will doubtless be disappointed, but you know, he has had the big prize this weekend. He's taken the championship, and so Rosso Corsa celebrate world champion. So the drivers will be hustled off up to the podium. And Tanny Hanna P2, and there is Makoto Fujiwara for Asia Pacific. Worn out, I'm not surprised, friend. Oh, look at the delight. Alongside me now is Brian Oliver. That was the very lady that helped us out with some of the pronunciations for Asia Pacific.
Yeah, she's done a marvellous job because there was some difficult names to pronounce, weren't there?
So James Wyland continuing to be congratulated then. Let's take a look at the highlights of that really rather dramatic Coppa Shell World Final race. As the cars lined up on the grid then, we knew that the race duration had been reduced to 25 minutes and the Hublot safety car would lead the cars away on their formation lap for said race duration. Thumbs up from Tanny Hanna, who was going for P1, no question about that. Some nervous anticipation in the garages, and then as the cars let loose, it's a good start from Ken A, putting himself alongside Cloud Ceneretti. But Tanny Hanna and Ernst Kirchmayr were side by side. Then came Thomas Gosner, and there was a touch from Tanny Hanna on the side of Ernst Kirchmayr, and Thomas Gosner then made the touch a lot bigger. And Corinna, his daughter, right alongside him, that also took out a number of other cars as well. So behind the safety car, the cars were then, and you can see Murat Kuhardaroglu was one of those that was out of the race, and he was in communication there with Ernst Kirchmayr. And James Weiland was going to have to push and push and push because Tanny Hanna had loads of confidence having taken the championship, but wherever you looked through the pack of cars, there was plenty going on, and drivers using every single centimetre of tarmac to try and make a difference and to try and get on terms with the car that was ahead of them. Brian Davis was one of those that was very lively in the course of the race, and unfortunately there with that contact from Jan Benzing, that sent Brian around. Brian, one of the stars of the North American series, managed to get the car back out onto the tarmac, but his race was definitely compromised. Von Skeltermar dived to the inside of the car of Kazuyuki Yamaguchi, and Cloud Ceneretti was under pressure all race long virtually from Ken A, but Cloud Ceneretti doing a very good job of defending, as is his right to do, and plenty of conversations going on the Kessel pit wall, and it was unfortunate that a tyre letting go meant that was the end of the race, and Corinna Gosner having to watch the race, of course, from the pit wall. But this was all that James Weiland needed, that error from Tanny Hanna, and there you can see, I still think that was fluid coming out of the front of Tanny Hanna's car, and well, the drama wasn't all over because Von Skeltermar able to take advantage of the mistake from Jay Park, and that put Von Skeltermar up into the P6 position, and Ken Abe desperately trying to get on terms with Cloud Ceneretti. He was able to recover there and maintain that P5 position. James Weiland becomes the Coppa Shell World Champion. So we await the podium now, Brian.
And that was a great race. I think Tanny Hanna was probably quite lucky to escape any kind of penalty into turn one. That was some very aggressive defending going into that corner. But James Weiland did exactly what he needed to do, and that was just to monster him into a mistake.
Okay, we'll be heading up to the podium in just a couple of moments' time to celebrate the top three. We were just discussing before we go up to the podium the Tanny Hanna and Ernst Kirchmayr right at the start of the race. I'm not absolutely sure that Tanny Hanna might not have had a little touch from the back, Brian, but from the camera angle that we had, it's conjecture.
One thing that has been consistent this weekend is the stewards have had every angle, a lot more angles than we have.
Of course.
So they would have looked at that and would have no doubt seen that, because if Tanny Hanna had made an error, then they would have picked up on it.
I think so. Okay, Makoto Fujiwara then makes his way to step three on the podium. Here comes Tanny Hanna. James Weiland heads to the top step of the podium as world champion. Good camaraderie again between all the drivers, and the national anthem plays out. Applauso, if you will. James Wyland, world champion. P2, Tanihana. P3, Makoto Fujiwara. Tony Verlander here, the Ferrari official GT driver, making the trophy presentations. First of all, to Makoto Fujiwara. Oh, and then Miguel Molina joins in the act as well, and he presents his trophy to Tanihana. And Davide Rigon. And James Wyland receiving his trophy. So the drivers all will get together for the photographs. Up your trophy. Lift up your trophy. And now it's time for the champagne. Well, tell you what, Makoto beat everyone in that race. James takes a defensive position from the top step where he gets a better angle, you see. Brilliant, well done, good celebrations, and well done to all the drivers in that Coppa Shell Finale Mondiali World Final race. James Wyland, the victor. Very busy place is Mugello today for this Finale Mondiali event. World final race for Coppa Shell done and dusted. Super slow-mo's the top three. Makoto Fujiwara then takes P3 for Cornes Shiba. And Asia Pacific. European driver Tanihana for Formula Racing in car number 157 takes P2. P2 has raced in Asia Pacific this year also. And then taking P1 for Rosso Corsa in the 118 car. Having driven in Europe, in North America, and also in Asia Pacific, James Wyland becomes world champion. And the celebrations up there on the podium. A sight to behold. Fantastic stuff. So the world final race is done for Coppa Shell, and our attention turns already, of course, to season 2020. And what a great season that promises to be also. Plenty of fans here to enjoy the extraordinary celebrations. Some nice camera art there on the Cloud Ceneretti car. The Yambin Zing car that we see now, this is the challenge show. Ken Abe kicking up some gravel and dust, that's for sure. So plenty of fans have made their way into the Mugello circuit. As I was saying, this whole Finale Mondiali event, they build almost a small village inside the paddock. There you can see just part of it to the right-hand side of the screen. It's a fantastic place to spend some time, and when the weather conditions are nice, as indeed they are at the moment, there's no better place to be, probably. So there we have it. Coppa Shell World Final done and dusted. From Brian, from myself, and from Daniel Serra. Bye-bye for now.